We've all seen it, right? Our students' attention spans are decreasing. This isn't me blowing things out of proportion. This isn't some imaginary thing that an older generation looks at a younger generations and imagines that things were different in their day. This is fact. This is what's happening. Attention spans are decreasing. Or, put another way, and perhaps more specifically, the ability to focus is being lost. And it's happening because of the environment, because of how we're bringing up our children with screens, with social media, with short form things, and with always keeping them busy. Now, we can't change the whole world. I mean, I feel like music kind of can, but we can't literally change what everybody is doing and the access our students have to screens and the overscheduled nature of their lives. So the question is, what can we do? What do we do to keep our students' attention? How do we manage this in this increasingly digital world, in this world where it is really hard for kids to focus because they're not asked to do that in the same way that often? Now, the tempting solution to this, and what I've seen some teachers walk down the path of, is if you can't beat them, join them. Meaning, we should use more apps. We should bring the digital world into our piano lessons. And look, I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm not saying we can't use apps. But let's be careful, because the app has to be for a specific lesson, learning, outcome, purpose. Not just because if we use technology, things will be easier. Because that's just not true. And even if it was, that's not fixing the problem. Whereas if we teach piano lessons in a certain way, we can actually help our students to build their ability to focus, to work through hard challenges, to keep their attention on something. Underneath blaming things on technology, what's the real reason that students are losing attention, losing their focus in your lesson? Let's be real about it. Let's figure it out. I think there are two top reasons. There could be other reasons, but there are two top reasons. Either what you're doing with them is too challenging for that student, or it's not fun. So let's start with the not fun part of it. If the student is bored in some way, shape, or form, it is hard for them to keep their attention on that thing because it just feels boring to them. Right? It doesn't feel interesting. Now, kids are naturally wired to learn new things. They're naturally wired to be curious. And we can tap into that. And that's what making things fun really means. It means bringing a sense of play or a sense of curiosity into lessons so that we're tapping into what children naturally have, which is this ability to focus and to learn new things. So why is it not fun for your student that's losing their ability to focus in the lesson? It could be that it's not fun because it's too challenging. So let's come back to that. That's our other issue that we'll deal with in a second. But some other reasons in case that's not the culprit. Maybe they don't like the music you're working on. Maybe it's that simple. Or maybe you just haven't sold it to them. Sometimes we're so focused on getting results, right? Making progress with students that we dive right into having them learn the piece. And we skip over the part where we show them how cool the piece is. And if you think that this piece is not fun, if there's no redeeming factors to it, there's not something for your student to connect to, then honestly, you should do a different piece. There has to be something that you could sell to them as, this is why this piece is cool. Now, I'm not saying we literally have to argue with them or present all these reasons why they should do this piece, but they have to have some reason to buy in, and they may need more of that in the beginning because they don't have the trust with you. So they have to have a direct buy-in to that specific piece of music that they're learning. So you might play the piece for them if you think it'll sound cool and ask them a question that engages their imagination in the piece. Or you might highlight some specific feature of the piece which makes it fun and cool. It could just be the topic of the piece and engaging them with the character that's involved in the title of the piece or whatever the case may be. Give them some reason to love the music. Another reason why it might not be fun is because they just haven't warmed to you yet. Or a more harsh way to say this that I often put it this way when talking about myself, is they just don't like me. I mean, if a student is in a lesson with me and they've decided that they don't really like me, I'm not cool, I'm not fun, it's really hard to get them on board with the learning process. Some kids will go along with it anyway, but it's a lot easier if they have warmed to you. Now, that doesn't mean you're their best friend, it doesn't mean you're not in a teacher role, but it does mean you're developing a relationship with them, you're taking their interests seriously, and you're finding a way to connect with them. And a final reason for now, I'm kind of trying to keep this broad, final reason for now that it might not be fun for your student, they might not feel that they're having fun and therefore engaged in their learning, is what happened before the lesson. Did they come to this lesson directly from something they were highly engaged in? And specifically, did they come from a digital world? So maybe they were playing on their iPad in the car on the way to the lesson. Maybe they were playing, maybe you teach at their homes and you saw that they were playing their Xbox or something directly when you arrived at the house. It doesn't have to be digital. It could be that they absolutely love science and they were in the middle of a science project. But it tends to be more jarring and more difficult when it was something digital that was happening directly before the lesson, specifically if it was a video game. I think about this like I think about my dog with his ball. So we did dog training with our dog when we only had him a few months, and we did a adult dog training class. Teacher was talking about, throwing the ball in the park and stuff like that. And he said, look, it's great. I mean, if they love chasing the ball, which our dog absolutely is ball obsessed, great, they get great exercise. But have you ever noticed that after that session, they're a little bit wired? It's because it's releasing all these crazy hormones in their head because they've been designed almost to chase things for us. We have all these, like the dopamine and the whatever is going off in the dog's head. And so when they're playing with their ball, it's not just like regular play. They feel a little bit like they're hopped up, right? That's kind of how I think about a student playing a video game and then coming out of that and being at a piano lesson. Sure, it's fun to be in that state sometimes. There's no problem with my dog chasing their ball, but they should have some walks where they're not hopped up like that. They should have some other experiences of exercise because that is putting them in this certain mode. And for our students, if they're playing a video game, they are in a certain mode, which is this heightened, designed to be, addictive environment. And then we're ripping them out of that, or their parent is, and putting them in an pretty much analog situation of a piano lesson. I think music is super fun, and I think we can be really engaging and play games with our students, but it's not that mode. It's not that kind of fun. Doesn't mean it's not as fun, but it's a different kind. And so when we rip them out of that world and plonk them into this world, for a lot of students, their piano lesson feels boring or difficult or tiring or something. And it's coming because they're coming off that enormous high, essentially, of being in that video game world for many kids. If you find that they're in kind of a weird mode when they come to lessons, it might be worth having a careful conversation with the parent about what is happening before the lesson and seeing if that can be altered a little bit. This video is sponsored by Vivid Practice. Managing student assignments shouldn't be a hassle. VividPractice.com makes it easy to track progress, streamline assignments, and encourage better practice habits without the clutter of unnecessary features. Designed by music teachers for music teachers, Vivid Practice keeps students engaged with simple, effective tools like practice modes, progress tracking, and built-in messaging. Spend less time managing and more time teaching. Try VividPractice.com today with a free account. Now let's come back to the other possible reason. There's not only two, but these are the two big ones that I see. You're not keeping your students' attention because the material is too challenging. I know, you might be saying, no, it's not, it's a beginner piece, it's perfectly appropriate, it's easy for them. And that might be the case. It might be thoroughly the case. And if it's too easy, we might come back to the fact that they just don't like the music, it's not interesting to them. But I want you to be aware of something. In this world, with Generation Z and particularly Generation Alpha coming up now, and all the time they're spending on screens and other factors, they have a lower tolerance for struggling through things, for working on things that are hard. I'm sorry, but it is proving to be true. Now, I think we're part of the solution to that. So I don't think there's any reason to despair. But it does mean we have to work with them where they're at, because they're doing things like playing video games that are designed to push you forward and make things easy when you're having too much difficulty so that you never really feel any difficulty. Also, it's not real stakes. It's not like trying to climb up the highest ladder in the playground and falling to the ground is the consequence of that. If you're playing a video game, the consequence is, oh no, I failed at this particular puzzle or whatever, I have to start again. But nothing really happened to you. And so, if our student is in that world, which they are to a greater or lesser extent depending on the parents and what else is going on, they have a lower tolerance for getting things wrong, for finding things challenging, for working through difficulties. I find that sad, I'm not going to lie to you, but it is where we're at. And the thing I don't find sad is that we can help with that. It doesn't mean easy pieces. That's what I want to make really clear. I'm not saying it's too challenging because the rep is too challenging. Could be that. Could be that. But often it's not. It's too challenging because you haven't broken down the learning steps enough. And that is your job. That is my job. We have to break things down, especially for beginner students, to the point where they don't feel the struggle. Especially in those beginning years. They shouldn't be feeling the struggle bus. We are responsible for making the steps easy for them. Later on, they will build up more tolerance for working through hard things. That's what music can teach them, actually. But in the beginning, and especially if they're not practicing at home, further on in the years, we need to be the ones to break down that learning so that they feel successful, so that it feels like tick, 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 right? I'm getting it, I'm getting it, I'm getting it. And we sometimes have to do that in a sneaky way. We can't let them try the piece in its entirety and then go, okay, that was too hard, we'll do this instead. Then they feel like, I'm not getting it, I'm a failure. We can't let them feel that. We have to break down the steps so that it feels easy to them. And they don't know all of the flapping our little swan feet are doing under the surface of the water. So this doesn't mean boring pieces. It doesn't mean stuff that's so easy when it's complete that it's actually just boring music, that is just a learning exercise and nothing else. It means we do the work so that they don't have to overcome these huge obstacles that feel enormous to them, much bigger than they would have to the average student of their age 20 years ago, 50 years ago, however far back you want to go. It is different. So, no boring pieces, just breaking down those learning steps to make it feel easier for your student. This is our path to fixing the problem. It is not us pandering to them and furthering the problem, making it worse. This is actually how we're going to fix it. If we break down those steps, if we make it easy for our student, we can gradually start to give them more independence in that process. And then they will take those skills and they'll be able to tackle harder things outside of lessons too. I've seen it happen myself. So if your student is struggling to pay attention and you're finding yourself saying, oh my gosh, in this phone-based childhood world, it's impossible. I can't keep them on task. You can and you will. Try starting with those two issues that I brought up to you. Is it too challenging? Is it not fun? Those are at the core of most issues. In addition to that, let's keep an eye on the pacing of your lessons. And that doesn't always mean move through more material. It means literally keep an eye on the pacing. Experiment in little ways with, do you move more quickly between things? Do you change activities more often or less often? And how does that work for this particular student? Is it helping, or are they paying even less attention? Whichever way you go, it could be better or worse for your student. So it's not always about, oh, they have the attention span of a gnat, I'm going to do activities for only 1 minute at a time. That might not actually be the solution for your student. It could be that they need to stay on one task longer in order to get engaged with it, and you'll only know that by working with them and paying attention. And note though, on the pacing and the switching of tasks, it could be about the duration of each task, but it could also be about that switching moment. And your issue could go either way here. For some teachers, they're eating up a lot of time switching between those tasks. They're not doing it intentionally, and they usually have no idea that they're doing it at all. But they have not planned well enough or made notes that they can understand quickly enough to be able to move to the next thing. So if there's a moment where you are opening up the game instructions and reading them while your student is right there waiting for you, or a moment where you're flipping over the page in the book and looking at the piece and thinking about what's the new element on this page, then you're not prepared enough for that lesson, because you need to be able to move between things more quickly so that your student stays on that task. Some students are very, angelic and good, and they will just sit there and wait for you to get it ready, but it's not the best use of lesson time. So if you're not sure if this is you or not, or you just want to investigate, the best thing to do is to record some videos of your lessons, and you can watch back and literally count up the time where your student is waiting for you to figure out the next thing. It could also be that you fully know everything they're going to do, but your notes, like some people will make extensive lesson plan notes and they're too wordy. It's fine to make those notes, but if you're going to make longer lesson plan notes, it's particularly for newer teachers, often like to have those notes, and I think that's great. That shows great dedication and preparation. But if you're going to do that, you have to have a version which is like a quick summary of bullet point, just reminders for yourself, okay? Like you're giving a speech, and you're not going to write out exactly what to say, but you're going to have just bullet point reminders. Now, the other side of that is you could be someone who's just straight on to the next thing, and your student actually finds this jarring and doesn't have time to adjust to the expectations of the new thing, whether that's a new piece, new activity, a movement thing. For some students, they need a second to adjust. And so you perceiving them not paying attention is actually their adjustment time. So be careful of both directions there. Both can be problematic. My final note on this. Humans don't find fellow humans boring as a natural state. We are wired to make connections with each other, and kids especially are wired to make connections with adults who can guide them. So go back to the relationship. Know how important it is that you connect with your student on a real level. They're not an adversary that you're trying to convince to pay attention to you. They are another human, and if you connect with them and build that relationship, you can go a long way.